Yeah, thank you very much, Temi. I'm not a fan of the exaggeration of my influence in. I was quite helpful. Yeah, I was quite helpful, but like they say, it takes a village to raise a child, and I'm just one of many villagers that were helpful. We're thankful that there's success, and when there's success, everybody wants to latch onto it. Yeah. So, but the reason why Paystack succeeded is it had an excellent founder, co-founders, a team tackling a big market, and they built an excellent product. Many people came in and helped in one way or the other, and I would say I'm just fortunate to have been there at the point in time I was being able to help. Yeah, so going back to the meat of it, like I was told, the whole idea was talking about, long and short is, how do we make Ilorin a tech ecosystem to of repute, right? And so what I would say is I'll give a bit of my background. I grew up in Benin, a very small town, south of Nigeria, and I was fortunate for my secondary school. I schooled in Lagos, so I had a bit of exposure, and I always wanted to do technology. Then I went to the UK, and that's when I got into tech fully. Every weekend, of course, while we'll be listening to Stubbs. Stubbs was the name of Temi's platform, early days, 2008, 2009. I don't know where most of you were then, but it was really early, at least in tech, right? And every weekend, I remember very clearly, every weekend, my friends would go to Coventry to party, and I'll go down to London to do this tech thing. And that's where I got into the hackathons, and that's where I made my relationships. That's where I saw meetups. I just saw a lot of things happening, and I was so excited. In less than a year, I went back to Warwick. I schooled in Warwick. Warwick is in Coventry, and it's in a remote place. I normally say Coventry is like Benin of UK. It's just somewhere in the middle there. And I helped. Then we always used to have the Warwick entrepreneurs, and each university had an entrepreneurial society. As Adekunle said, most of them, what do you call it? As Adekunle said, most of them were tackling typical small businesses, and no one was tackling the challenges real startups had. And so I started out Warwick Internet Entrepreneur Society, right? And because the needs were different. And yes, so I was happy to kick that off. After a while, when I started speaking with an accent, I knew it was, and when I told someone that was old enough to be my grandmother, hi, instead of good evening, man, I knew it was time to go back home. So I decided to return home, right? I decided to come back home, and I still have the blog post I wrote when I was coming back home. The blog post is titled Return to Zamunda. But there's a line there saying, I want to go and help build the Nigerian tech ecosystem. I knew what I had learned, and I moved back home. And when I moved back home, I held arguably the first tech meetup in Nigeria. So basically bringing tech people together, having beers, having pizza, and just talk and just create a community. What people don't realize then is that Twitter was very young, and we didn't have any mailing lists. So it was basically locking it out. Okay, I wrote a blog post previously. What do you call it? I wrote a blog post in 2009 or so that went viral, and I was on Business Insider, I was on TechCrunch when I launched my startup. And because of that, I was lucky enough to have so many people reach out to me. There was no hashtag. You couldn't really know who to follow. There was no, Twitter didn't even have a Twitter client. So it was just a wild, wild west. So thankfully, because of the blog post I wrote, I got a lot of people that were interested in tech who now reached out to me. I was on Hacker News. That period was really rapid. So they saw a black guy on TechCrunch having his own startup, and lots of entrepreneurs that were in their little isolated places reached out to me. So it helped me build the mailing list, in which I sent a message to saying I was doing my first startup meetup. Interestingly, that was the first time I saw Shola at that meetup. So when you look at all these things, you would, like Steve Jobs said, you would be able to connect the dots backwards. So that's how we were able to start tech community. Then things happened. I got to meet Bosun. Bosun started CC Hub and created a place. And the rest is history. Well, if we're trying to get Ilorin to be a startup hub, one of the things I would say, because thankfully I'm speaking after 4-5 smart people, and it means that I don't have to say much because we're going to be saying different things. So I'll try to put it all together in a way. Kamaldeen and was talking a lot about all the talent, and the talent is there, right? And what while he was talking, at first I was hoping that somebody would imply that there wasn't much talent in Ilorin, because I wanted to start calling out. I had names I'd written out that went to University of Ilorin. So today, one pipe is called, the founder is called Opeyemi Adeoye. He was ex-Interswitch. They just raised $950,000, right? He's University of Ilorin alum. Musti is the city of Kuda Bank. Kuda Bank just raised $10 million. University of Ilorin. Charles Ifedi, Interswitch founder, one of the co-founders of Interswitch, University of Ilorin. And we have all those things. The person that leads marketing in Paystack. I had one guy called Mubarak, was one of the best designers. Rest his peace. May still rest in peace. Mubarak was just the best. But basically, we had all these talents that came out from Ilorin, and yet we were talking about there was no startup in Ilorin. Why? The best people move to the best place to live. You cannot make a startup hub if people don't settle in that place. You end up being a very good feeder team that like Ajax, and you're bringing up talent and will be taking it around the world. But the truth of the matter is that people congregate when you succeed in life. You want to go to the best place for you and your family, for you and your job. Now, for Ilorin to be a great startup hub, it has to be a great place to live and work, but more or less a great place to live. And what makes a great place to live? There's so many things, right? You just need a good environment, purely planned stuff. Unfortunately, as they said, you cannot entrepreneur your way out of bad governance. So it is government that has a role to play to make the broader ecosystem work. However, we are in an industry where we operate in spite of governments, right? We just have to keep on moving on. No matter what happens, we keep on moving on, right? They throw on regulation, they throw on, like, there's no light, there's no this. We just find a way to make it work. Now, so two things have to work. You need talent and you need money. The good thing about the way technology is now is that you do not need to really serve your market. I just saw Bolt raise $140-something million today, and what it should interest you to note is that Bolt came out of Estonia. It's one of the tiniest places, less than 1 million people, right? Estonia brought out Skype, the guys from TransferWise, and every other thing, right? Let's not talk about Israel as a whole. So basically, the fact that Ilorin or Kwara State is a small place, Kwara is big, but let's focus on Ilorin for now, doesn't mean it cannot produce one of the biggest GDPs in Africa as a whole, right? But what would it mean? It means that you have to attract and keep the best talent there. One of the best ways to attract and keep the best talent there is through universities. In business, retention is one of the key important metrics. It's probably 10 times easier. I don't have the numbers, but it's much, much, much easier to retain a customer than to attract a new one. So what does that mean? What you want is, you want the best founders or the best talents to live, to remain. They come to University of Ilorin, and you have to do stuff that lets them remain. It's easier to keep an Opeyemi Adeoye in Ilorin than for you to now attract him. Now he has settled in Lagos. So in the talent pipeline, you have to, while you are creating talent, you have to try and look for where to keep, how to keep them there. How do you keep them there? Well, it depends. Like I said, it's the best place to live and all have you. Thankfully, these days we have what we call remote work. Remote work means that, again, everyone knows, it means that you can actually get a job from everywhere else. Um, Temi spoke earlier, and I don't know where he has disappeared to, but Temi spoke earlier about the fact that Lagos is a hectic place. Lagos is hectic, and in spite of that, people leave, people still stay here. Why? Because give or take, there are other things apart from work that makes Lagos interesting, a good place to stay. So in spite of every other thing, that's to show how backward or how far behind other people are, that in spite of everything, in spite of the fact that to live in Lagos is work on its own. That's a full day's job, just living in Lagos before going out to a job, right? It's full-time work. In spite of that, Lagos is still far ahead. But we're seeing different trends. Talent QL by Adewale Yusuf is moving to Ife, right? Lots of people are moving to Nsukka. They're trying to create a talent city in Calabar. So what should Ilorin do? Ilorin should be able to put the foundation, right? You should be able to create or provide the infrastructure for the people there to do their best work, right? And the thing is that this thing has a domino effect in the sense that when people are in a place, when good people are in place, more good people want to be there, and more good people will come, and you now create success, and more people want the success, and it starts going that. So first thing I would ask would be to create a good place for the people that are already there to do their best work. So what does that mean? Two things, right? Light, internet, right? I didn't ask for food, right? Because these days we all do what's this fasting method we do, so we don't want to eat that much. But again, you need to create infrastructure. Adekule talked about people moving to Texas, bigger companies. You need to create policy. So those people are moving to Texas not because they love Texas. Yes, Texas had always been there, but right now it's zero personal income tax. So a state like Kwara State can say anyone working in tech community, you don't pay a level of tax. What happens is if I don't pay tax, I have to still spend the money. Money allows people to just put effort or make work happen in the particular way. So if I save 30 million in my I don't know, from taxes as a company, what do? I maybe give staff lunch. If I give staff lunch, it means that I will patronize the farmers, and there's a domino effect. If a startup founder has an extra amount of money that he didn't pay as taxes, he would invest it in the community. He will get a bar. He will build a small business. He will start his barbering salon. People will invest there. So you need to create certain policies, the government, right? Because when I'm talking about the government, typically we don't talk about the government. The best thing the government can do is to get out of the way. Guys, thank you so much. How have you contributed? We'll give you an award. Just do nothing. And that's the biggest thing you can do. But because you're here and you're trying to be part of this, we'll say, don't get out of the way yet. We'll observe you closely. You have to create policy that will attract the right people that will help facilitate stuff. So for instance, we're talking of internet, right? We don't expect the government to create internet or to provide internet. What we expect is the government to create a policy. Right now, they said that right of way is 100 and something naira, right? From 5,000 or how much for them to lay fiber cables. I would flip it on its head and pay Main One or pay Glow One or MTN and pay them 10,000 naira, at least maybe in tax rebates or any other thing, for every kilometer of fiber they lay. Because what you should understand is that the internet is the way and the path to the general public. So the cheaper the internet access is, the more people that can come on the internet in Kwara or in Ilorin, and the more talent that you can build and create. The more people that are talented there, the more they create, right? the university would be a very good place for people to go and do their best work. It would attract other people. Ilorin for a while was not in ASU, which was supposedly a good thing. I think they have joined now. And it meant, at least for a long period of time, people went to University of Ilorin because they were sure that there would be no strikes. So some things that may not seem directly related contribute. So you have to look for a way, like you have to have the idea of bringing in and retaining the most talent. Yeah. So again, you need investors for businesses to run, right? You need investors, right? And the truth of the matter is that before now, you had to live where the investors were. Things have changed. Investors go where talent is, and there are many companies, companies like WordPress, for instance, that have thousands and thousands of InVision that have thousands and thousands of employees that are fully remote, right? Okay, I can see him saying Kwara State waved to zero. You have to turn it around and incentivize. You have to make it like a competition. Let's blanket that place with fiber, right? You can, if the states are cash strapped, but you could find a way to incentivize people, right? You incentivize people to build the kind of communities. We don't want to live in a place that there's no light or there's generator noise. You can't think of an algorithm when there's doing in your head, right? How does that happen? You have companies, property companies that would come in and be given land and all those other things. But let me not get distracted. So you need investors, right? And thankfully, investors now just follow the talent, right? I don't know where Kamaldeen is. I assume he's in Ilorin, but look at all of us being able to interact here today. Adekunle, I think he's in Canada from what you said, but he's part of the Ilorin Hub. You may want to claim your hosting rights, Temi, so your recording stays with you. But he's part of the community. So what is happening now is that investors do not have to be where you are for them to invest in you. So again, once you're able to do that, you'll be able to succeed. One more thing I would like to talk about is when they talk about a hub.
We must have had an outage, Dino.
Yeah, I'm wondering
They,
here.
Temi will probably pick up and probably lost OO.
Okay. So
Temi, unmute yourself.
Sorry, I'm here.
that's
yeah.
why I took my video off just in case they needed bandwidth.
Yeah, so I've actually had to switch back and forth between 3 internet services during this webinar.
No worries. Keep it up. Keep telling us. I love what you're talking about.
I've had to switch back and forth between 3 services just to stay on this call. That's what we're going through, and that's what we need to improve. So with the policy that I just mentioned, that the government has actually made it almost free for telecoms companies to lay fiber now. We're hoping that more of them are going to come in right now. This is the first webinar in the series. I actually got a new internet service here this week just because of this webinar. Just because of this, just for this purpose, because I already had 2 or 3 before, but I just wanted to have the stronger, better option and look at what's going on right now. So, I mean,
well done, though. You should be proud of
what you're doing. Are you hearing me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Temi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can't hear you, but I would assume you can hear me.
I can hear
So,
you.
like I was saying, when we're of the innovation hub, it's very important. One of the popular things government does is that they assume because they have the capital, they can force innovation. You can't. It's in the head. And if you do not attract the best people, they just walk away. They go away. So, a hub, when you want to make a place a hub, there are elements of it. And of course, Dino has talked about a lot of them, right? But I normally tell people we need a space, right? One of the things that CC Hub did was that it created a space. I didn't say building, because people bring out glorified cyber cafes and they just drop computers there and say it's a hub, right? No, you need a space. You should know, if you look at other university institutions and universities that were built at least before the 80s or so, there were spaces of thoughts, there were spaces of inspiration from the architecture and everything. It allowed people to think. People are inspired by what they see and they consume around them. So the day I'm visiting Ilorin Hub, and if I see it's a converted cyber cafe, I'll be the first to mock you online. I know you dare not do it. But we need a space that is innovative, right? You need a space, you need programs, right? When you have a space, you provide infrastructure and everything, it will attract the first set of people. Hey, free internet, free space, free place to work. But again, it has to be a bit of an inspirational space. Secondly, you need to create programs, right? And in creating these programs, you don't need to be the person to create these programs. We need to teach people. We need to create talents. Talents are the ones that start these companies. So you need to teach them. They need to learn. And the good thing is that part of programs is the third part would be it's about partnerships. The good thing about partnerships is that those people in specializing in what they are doing, it affects what you're doing. So, for example, people, if the states were very aggressive as it were then, like how the Rwandan government is now, they should have brought in Andela and give them a free piece of land and accommodation, because that would have brought in 1,000 developers, right? Those are the kind of things partnerships can do. You need to bring in the right types of people that will come in and double down on what you're doing. We have the big conglomerates, we have the smaller ones, because what people don't understand is that one thing I like about what Andela said was talent is evenly distributed, opportunity is not. So you have a lot of talent already in Ilorin, right? You have a lot of talent already in Ilorin, and you need to retain them, right? Some of these things you can do can help, but what you want to be is someone that kickstarts, right? When you start a business, because sometimes people just find a way, a hack, whatever it is, and just bring in the right set of people. When the thing starts, it's like what do you call it? A chain reaction. When a chain reaction starts, you don't start putting fire or whatever it is. It just wants, so your own is to try and kickstart it, and you should be able to set a high standard. It's very, very important that you set a high standard at the beginning. Why? The truth of the matter is, people are now realizing that oil is out of it. So even Lagos State, they are trying to start looking for new places. So you will start competing. Canada, we talked about Canada. Canada is farming the best brains from the greatest brain drain since in a generation or so, right? Canada is trying to get the best people. What is the UK doing? From January 1st, if you get a job that pays you £25,000 a year, of which any junior developer can get, right? You get a visa to go and live in the UK. You don't get much money. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that when I wrote my post about Yaba and Andela, for Yaba and talent and all those things, your competition is not Lagos. Your competition to keep your best talent is in London. It's in Toronto, or Toronto, as they call it, Toronto, right? That's where your competition is. And you cannot use sentiments. You can't use patriotism. Now, who they are alive, they patriotic. You understand? So you need to create an environment. Give or take, we know for sure that if the quality of life in Nigeria was half or 1/4, maybe 1/3 that of Canada, many people will not go to a cold place to be lamenting. They would stay here. So the truth of the matter is that what you have to do might not be that much, but you have to do certain things, and you cannot blackmail people to stay in a place that doesn't work. At worst, you might end up being the feeder the feeder team, right? And hopefully somehow the people that succeed or manage to stay will build it out. But again, you have to eventually build the best place for people to want to stay. If not, you'll just be going to see people's LinkedIn, and at the very bottom you see University of Ilorin, and you'll be retweeting and say, hey, this guy is a Ilorin alumni, hey, Kwara, but the person has no more ties. The person is not contributing any economic activity. You understand? Typically, I'm not a fan of giving a lot of presentation and talk. I like people to ask questions so that I can practicalize or give responses that are very practical to what they want to know. So I think I'll conclude by saying, again, a tree can make a forest. We see what happened in Jos. The very talented Sim Shagaya started ULSN in Jos and tried to do everything. But again, he saw that people didn't want to come to Jos. Accessibility, right? If you want to quickly be part of, the world is globalized. So it means, like you said to Dino, as you talked about with Dino, that today you were showing him Ilorin, the next day you were in Canada. Well, if you go to a place whereby it will take you 3 days to get to the nearest airport before you get to Canada, he will not have been surprised because probably a ship would have got to Canada earlier, right? So you need to be in a place that's accessible, which is why I said that no matter what ULSN did, they couldn't stay in Jos, because even if I want to just drop into Jos, I can't just get into Jos. I would have to wait for one of the flights every other 5 days. So while you're doing your stuff, you cannot entrepreneur your way out of these macro effects, right? And if we have choice now, the innovators have choice. So you can't force us to stay. So if you don't provide all these things, what will happen with people will just get up and leave, and you can't do anything about it. Thank you very much, Temi. So I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have. Yes.
I don't have a question. I just want to thank you, because that's a good point you touched on. Niagara, even though we're close to the US border and to Toronto, the big city, we need a GO train. We need a train to bring the young people here, because they don't want to come to Niagara. It's too small, right? Without transportation, they won't come.
Yes. And luckily you had a train. So is it a single train? Is it just an easy train to ride?
They call it the GO train, which is a transit system between Toronto and the other cities and here. But it only comes once in the morning and once at night. But we need it more often because, you know, a university may want to send 2 students. A business may want to send a research and development person here. They have to either drive, and I know it's only an hour and a half drive, but the traffic is incredible and could take them 4 hours to get here.
Yes, and the more successful they are, they leave. Because why would I have choice.
So, that's very, very on point, because I was so excited about the news that the Lagos-Ibadan train has started working, but that's Ibadan, that's not even Ilorin. Ilorin is still further out from Lagos. So yeah, we're laying a train network, and some new routes have started working in Nigeria right now. So there's a new train route from Lagos to Ibadan. And guess what? A lot of people are going to start living in Ibadan and working in Lagos if that train starts operating properly. The same way Abuja and Kaduna has happened. You know, a lot of people now can go to Kaduna and come back the same day. And like you said, not everybody will be able to afford a flight back and forth from Ilorin. So, you know, Ilorin Innovation Hub might have to maybe even invest in some sort of bus that shuttles between Lagos and Ilorin, something that, you know, can bring entrepreneurs back and forth. Let me give you one story. So there was a company that spent a few weeks working in Ilorin. They had a project and they were here for a few weeks. And what they were able to say was that at the end of that few weeks, they had a product that they've been working on, and they hadn't been able to complete this product in Lagos for several months. In 2 weeks, they made so much progress while they were working in Ilorin that at the end of that 2 weeks, when they went back to Lagos, their boss sent them back to Ilorin and said, you know what, you guys go back to Ilorin and work in Ilorin for another 2 weeks. Why? Because they were able to work better and focus, and they were more productive while they were here. So they actually came back here and they were able to complete their product, and it's ready. They've launched now, all because they were able to spend some time in Ilorin. So yeah,